Building a thriving practice for mental health that doesn't consume you has been a really significant struggle that I see with many, many established clinicians, therapists that are making $150,000 to $300,000 a year, really struggling, seen them struggling to believe that they have to make a choice between, do I continue doing what I'm doing, or and burn out, or do I leave the field? And that is a choice that I struggled with myself back in 2019. I found myself just really at the edge of burnout, if not already in burnout. And I realized there's something that had to change. Something had to change. So my goal has become since then, since I discovered what I needed to do to bring myself back into this career that I love, this helping profession that I love. I've really committed to supporting other clinicians, therapists, helpers, medical professionals, figure out what it is that they need to survive and to thrive and to really just have a practice that feels like it is fulfilling to them once again.
And good day, everybody. Hi, I'm Walter, and I'm the Dutch mentor, and this is the S.M.A.R.T Podcast. And today we are honored to have Helen with us. But before we get started, always remember that S stands for self-care, M for mindful growth, A for adaptive learning, R for rhythmic operation, the T for a thriving community, and of course P for performance. Today we're diving into the S for self-care because, on the end of the day, we have to feel good about the work that we do. And if you suffer from any level of anxiety on Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock, this podcast is for you. In the world that I work in healthcare primarily, over 60% of the folks go to work on a daily basis feeling stressed and at a near burnout. So again, stick around. I know that Helen is going to give you some valuable tips and a couple of free giveaways at the end of things that you can take action on today. Helen, thank you very much for joining me today. Introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Walter, for having me. I really appreciate you being here. You have such value to your listeners. My name is Helen. I am the founder of Kairos Counselings and the Somatic Integration Institute. Building a thriving practice for mental health that doesn't consume you has been a really significant struggle that I see with many, many established clinicians. Therapists that are making $150,000 to $300,000 a year, really struggling. I've seen them struggling to believe that they have to make a choice between, do I continue doing what I'm doing, or and burn out, or do I leave the field? And that is a choice that I struggled with myself back in 2019. I found myself just really at the edge of burnout, if not already in burnout. And I realized there's something that had to change. Something had to change. So my goal has become since then, since I discovered what I needed to do to bring myself back into this career that I love, this helping profession that I love. I've really committed to supporting other clinicians, therapists, helpers, medical professionals, figure out what it is that they need to survive and to thrive and to really just have a practice that feels like it is fulfilling to them once again. So thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're quite welcome. It's a noble message. And of course, we only have one life to live. And often we talk about cholesterol and fats and bad foods and carbs as the killers, but really the underlying cortisol is the killer, the silent killer we don't pay enough attention to. And anytime tensions rise, blood pressures rise, but cortisol rises, which only is an aggravator to everything else. So talk a little bit about how did you recognize that you were burning out? Because that video starts with we have to, why is my life unmanageable for the alcoholic? But why am I feeling irritated as part of burnout? Tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So interestingly enough, we work in this field and we help people all the time with their own struggles, with their mental health and their energy. And sometimes if we're not being careful, it can sneak right up on us. We are not paying attention to our own nervous systems and our own needs. What I realized was that it probably wasn't normal when a client canceled to shut the door, lock it, curl up on the couch, and take a nap. That was my sign. Something, this isn't, this isn't sustainable. Something's really wrong. I would come home, and I have young kids, and I would come home, and it just became increasingly harder to put my work away, to not, be thinking about clients while I was cooking dinner, or to wake up in the morning with someone's story in my mind. Oh, what is that particular person kind of facing today? Um, and as I talked to other clinicians, I realized, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. I'm not alone. Many of us are exhausted, are becoming hypervigilant in our own lives, are bringing our work home, and it's affecting our relationships. We're irritable with our partners, short tempered with the small people in our lives. We don't have the patience that we used to have. It's not a sustainable way to live by any means.
So when you start recognizing that, it takes courage to say, I need to do something about it. And especially maybe I need to go talk to somebody about that. So let's say that people recognize that they have some of these signs and symptoms you just talked about. What is it that they need to do? And then really look in the mirror and say, what do they need to say to themselves to get the courage to go out and actually do something about it?
Well, that is a great question. I think acknowledging that we're in a tough spot is the first. It's like, like you said, like the alcoholic, it's being able to say, I'm not at my best right now. I need to make something needs to change, something needs to give. Maybe I need to ask for help. Maybe I need to take a break. And I think it's really important to recognize that when we are not at our best, we are not providing the best to our clients, right? So the clients aren't getting the best of us. And that's unfortunate. I have run into too many clients over the years who have been, I don't want to say victims, but have been impacted by their previous clinician, who was struggling with burnout, perhaps leaving the field abruptly, having to go on medical leave, not holding good boundaries because they themselves were too exhausted. So recognizing that you're going through this is the first thing. Asking for help is the second thing. What I did, interestingly enough, one of the things that I stumbled across right about this time was somatic therapy. So I started some training programs in somatic therapy, somatic experiencing. And initially I was doing this because I'm a trauma therapist. My clients struggle with being in their bodies, with integrating their experiences at like a nervous system level. But as I was going through the training, as I was learning and practicing, I realized I am benefiting from this. This is what brought me back from the brink. Yeah. Being able to tune into my own nervous system, to recognize when I'm dysregulated, strategies to bring myself back into regulation, grounding my body, connecting to my environment. Yeah,
So
one of the most powerful.
yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
would love. Okay, I want to learn a little bit more about that somatic therapy itself. I want to just take one little step back because I think it is important before we get there. So, at the foundation of all of us, and we are always leaders of one, right? Ourselves, and then leaders of our families, and leaders of in an outward society. At the foundation, it needs to be mental wellness, spiritual wellness, physical wellness, relationship wellness, financial wellness. All of these symptoms you just talked about, and you probably recognize in yourself too, all these things start crumbling if we don't take good care of them, right? So now, one interesting part that I've seen, and I'm interested to hear your perspective on that. So it takes courage to ask for help. Women tend to be better at asking for help because they're less pride and ego driven. On one hand, the other hand, I said in the podcast just a couple of days ago, it's also the silent killer of women who have this need to always take care of everybody else before they take care of themselves. So again, so we have got to the point that people understand something is not right. They understand that things are on the fringes are crumbling, and if they don't do something about it, the world might lead to taking a leave of absence. Men or women doesn't make a difference. who should they be reaching out to? So you had the experience around semantic, and you take it, take it from one step to the next one. Is that who is the right person for them to touch base with, and then by all means share what that semantic therapy is as a pathway to recovery.
Absolutely. I always say for a clinician, we should all have, first off, we should all have supervisors or someone to do case consults with. It doesn't matter if you're independently licensed. It doesn't matter if you've been in the field for 40 years. You should have another professional that you feel, secure to go to talk about what you're dealing with. So I always recommend that people have those resources in their life. And if they can't find one in their community, we offer Somatic Integration Institute offers that. So there are organizations out there that offer professional supervision and case consultation. That is a wonderful place to start because it is pretty safe and it is pretty easy to access to talk about what's going on. I completely agree with this idea that women may have an easier time asking for help, but they may also have a harder time implementing the help because they continue to deprioritize themselves. They continue to put other people's needs ahead of them. That is an absolute truth. And women struggle. I know that they struggle with sort of the silent killer of heart disease, but they also struggle more often with autoimmune disorders. And that's that suppression of what our nervous system is telling us, that hyperactivation, that hypervigilance that our nervous system can get into, that state of like fight or flight. When it becomes too much for our nervous system to handle, it can shut down, and that can affect not just our relationships, that can affect our physical health in a way that can be really hard to come back from. So go to supervision, find a supervisor. Once again, the Somatic Integration Institute offers that at a very high level. It's something that I have really dedicated much of my, the last half decade of my career to. Find resources, I would say, that support you embodying yourself, being in connection with what your body is telling you, listening to it. And in that listening, making decisions that are in your best interest. So we offer a phenomenal program called the Catalyst Collective that is a community-based program. It is about bringing people together to work closely on supporting their nervous system health, their integration of their work experience in a way that supports them in building a practice that flourishes, that really thrives, and that they feel like I experienced when I came back from the brink. Oh, I do love this work again. So supervision, somatic resources, community, just speaking up and saying to other therapists, which can be so hard, this is something that I'm struggling with. I had a conversation with my doctor back in 2019, my primary care doctor, when this was going on. And I am just very blessed that he had a very good awareness of mental health treatment, that's something that he had experience with. And to name that it was burnout was such a powerful tool in the process of getting better.
Yeah, I mean, it's learning to admit first to yourself, right? It is that I often refer to it as, we are juggling many balls at the same time, but only one of those balls is made out of glass that should never be dropped. We can drop things at work and recover from that, but when you drop that glass ball that contains your family, you yourself, you might be in deep waters, and it's difficult to recover from that. On that note, I'm a deep believer that every leader, I don't care what level you're at, but certainly the aspiring leaders going up the chain, is that they all should have a mentor. They should have a safe zone to go to once a week for 30 minutes and unload. Because if you don't, you have that continuous build up. With trauma, having worked as a high level paramedic, a flight paramedic for over 30 years, I always relate to people like everything I see is a picture in my brain. And at some point in time, that cache in my brain is full. And the next thing that you see can cause real trauma, right? Long term impact on that. And it's no different than if you work in administration, nursing, doctors, therapists. You might feel really good, but there comes a point in time that if you don't unload, if you don't download and learn how to process that, it can become a little bit too much. So with that said,
Absolutely.
there's no one shot in the arm that anybody can get and say, listen, now you are better. So tell us a little bit about the longer term commitment one needs to make to themselves and to therapy. And what are some resources that people are available, things that they can start doing today?
Well, I think the first thing that you can start doing today is I call it, so I have, and this is in my flourishing system framework, but I call it a between session protocol. So it's something that if you're a therapist or if you're a doctor and you say, goodbye to one client and you have, because you're working on your boundaries, you have time between clients because you're not running over. One of the first things that I recommend everybody do is stand up and give their body an opportunity to move, right? Let your body move around and then take a pause. And this only needs to take 2 minutes. Take a pause, ground your feet, look around your space. You may have seen it 1,000 times, but look around it again. Just noticing what's in your environment. Let your ears, I say this often, allow your ears to wander. See if they can find something in the distance that they can hear. And then check in. Look inwards and ask yourself, am I carrying something from that last session that does not belong to me? Is there a story? Is there an image, something that does not belong to me? And if there is something that doesn't belong to me, if there is something that doesn't belong to me that I am carrying, visualize taking it out, taking a look at it, saying, this is not mine, and put it away. It could be brushing it off. It could be a literal brushing it off your body. It could be opening the window and letting it go out the window. It could be putting it in a box in the corner of your office, in a drawer somewhere. Put it away. It's not yours to be carrying into the next section.
Yeah, I love the micro timeout process. I think that what you're saying is really. So I talk a lot about the micro timeout and maybe visualizing, but this is very descriptive of what you said about what they need to do in order to be able to get out of that part of the brain that might be locked in. Now, the danger, of course, is that again, if you take that and put it into a box and don't process that box, it might come back to you at some point in time. Anyhow, all right. So let's talk about the practical application. And again, you really gave a good description of what happened to you. How did you recognize this? How you were courageous to ask for help, and some of these techniques. What is the next step that you can say to people? What type of a therapist or what type of a person should you reach out to? What are the tools available? Where can we find you? And again, what are some of the actionable takeaways?
Absolutely. So I can be found at Somatic Informed Therapies on Instagram. But I am offering for the listeners today, I'm actually offering access to what I call the Flourishing Practice Framework. And it's going to be offered exclusively for the next 5 or 6 days. And what you do is you go to the Flourishing System. I'm sorry, you go to flourishingsystem.org and, flourishingsystem.org/S.M.A.R.T Performance. And they will be able to access a burnout assessment that I have created, an audit, a practice energy audit that will almost immediately get about 5 hours of your week back. And then there is also a series of 3 videos, webinar videos that will look at boundaries, tips, tricks, tools to improve your boundaries, resourcing, tips, tricks, tools to improve your resources, and then how can you use those 2 strategies to improve your revenue capacity. So not only are you addressing your burnout, but you're actually creating an opportunity in your work to make some more money, really allow your practice to flourish.
And that also will help with burnout prevention. Although the
That
money is
will.
a motivator, but it certainly makes things a little bit better. Helen, thank you very much. I will put it into the show notes as well. So for everybody who's listening and didn't quite get to copy it down, all you have to do is click on the show notes, and it will be right there for people to get to. All right, give us a parting quote, statement, something that is memorable and impactful.
Oh gosh, that's a tough one. I would say that we need to spend more time living in our bodies. We are human beings. We are not human doings. And our body has more information than we give it credit for. So I challenge everyone who's listening today, even if it's just a few seconds, a minute, spend some time in your body.
I think that is a very pertinent and on the spot message. Interesting, over the next couple of days, as Thanksgiving is coming up, I'm actually doing some, Eckhart Tolle reminders to people to live in the moment and not live too far in the past, and certainly don't live too far into the future. Both are relevant, but being in the present of people who love you and need to be loved is critically important. Helen, thank you very much for joining me. It's a really important message
Thank
for
you.
people to wrap their heads around and to say, listen, I need some help. Brene Brown says it to all of us. We don't need to go at it alone. With that said, thank you everybody for joining the show today. Look forward to the next one coming up soon. Go check us out on all the social media, YouTube channels, and of course, thedutchmentor.com. Have a wonderful day, and we'll talk soon again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Looks like it is